Well, Calum, it's the afternoon after the night before, as the time when we're recording this. Hibs ending their 9-year wait for a win at Pittodrie, and we come off the back of our first ever watch along. I suppose we should apologise to those of you that have subscribed on YouTube, and if you're watching on YouTube for the first time, why don't you subscribe for all future shows whilst you're here? Because we did intend to get it out on this channel, but unfortunately, due to I think technical difficulties with YouTube themselves, Calum.
Yeah, we're using this website called StreamYard, and then you have to apply to go live, and it takes 24 hours to 48 hours, which we didn't realise. We did it about 24 hours before, but it didn't come through on time. So somehow we were able to go live on my channel instead, which you can also subscribe to. The link is in the description.
But we managed to do it, and thanks very much to those of you that did tune in, comment along, and I hope you all enjoyed it. It was an experience, Calum. It was certainly stressful, like you said, setting it up. Not sure what we were expecting, but it seemed to be well enough received. And yeah, I suppose even though we did watch it last night, we should kind of do a wee debrief for maybe those of you that tune into this show and haven't watched the game. We'll do our best to do a little run through. But once again, Calum, it's quite evident we're missing a goal scorer in this team.
Yeah, basically I got very excited in the fact Ryan Hedges came back in, then I forgot, he can't save this whole shit show. Yeah, pretty clear. It's been the problem the whole season. It continues. We've had, Calum Hendry's obviously chipped in every now and then. There's only so much one man can do, really, I suppose. Yeah, we're just sort of toothless, really. I thought we did okay in the first half, created a few opportunities.
Calum Hendry probably should have done better with his in the first half.
Yeah,
the
probably.
Obvious one I can think of.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not enough. There's no clear-cut chances, really, was there?
There's not, and that's what we said last night when we were watching the game. It felt, in the second half especially, it felt like we were trying to walk the ball into the net at time. We were trying to create the perfect goal. We were playing a pass when, if you look at what Doidge did with his goal, hits and hopes, finds the back of the net. We're instead of putting your laces through it, we'll just play out wide and then get the ball into the box. It's too slow, it's too predictable, and it's all possibly a cause of lack of confidence in amongst our front line. It's been a problem all season, and to be honest, I can't wait for this season to draw to a close on Saturday, because it's one I can't wait to put behind.
I totally agree, and last night sort of highlights how big of a job Stephen Glass has in his hands on Alan Russell, not only in terms of recruiting players for next season. We all know a lot of are out of contract, a lot of them not good enough as well, but then also to instill their ideas, this attacking, free-flowing play over the summer and the pre-season. Don't fancy doing that job. I'm glad it's them and not me. And if it's not highlighted how big a job they've got, I'm sure this weekend will.
Yeah, and it's funny, speaking of offering contracts out of contract players, Bruce Anderson being one, after their game last night in the 12th man group chat, I was speaking to Ben from the Only Aki's podcast. I just asked, how's Bruce Anderson been, because he seems to have gone quite quiet, and his reply was shite, like the rest of them. So good to see Bruce Anderson, after his strong starts, faded away, I suppose, at Hamilton, but maybe coming into a different team, different style of play at Aberdeen, it might suit him. Who knows? But we've not seen enough yet. I don't know. But if he's prepared to offer Michael Devlin 6 months from not seeing him, do you give Bruce Anderson a year? I don't know.
I think Bruce Anderson maybe gets one more year. He's always been the type of striker that I feel like would always benefit playing up with a partner, probably someone bigger in size, given the way we've played recently. And when he went to Aki's, he played well, and they seemed to play well to start with, but then his form dipped, and so did theirs. I'm not saying he's the whole fault, but it sort of just coincided. So I'm not going to read too much into that, I don't think.
No, but I think a lot of people picked up that we are moving the ball better under Stephen Glass in comparison to Derek McInnes. But it's all well and good moving the ball about, playing nice football. But at the end of the day, scoring goals is what gets you results. And unfortunately, we've not been able to do that enough this season. And we're set to have one of our lowest goal scoring seasons in our history, unless by some sort of miracle we managed to bag a couple of goals at Ibrox, and chance is a fine thing.
Well, I mean, that's unlikely at the best of times, let alone given how we've been this season, how they've been this season, and what they've got at stake trying to keep this unbeaten league season for them. I have zero confidence. We'll get on to it, but yeah, just a little predecessor for anyone tuning in. It's not going to be a positive one.
But I suppose it's kind of a summary of our season when Christian Doidge scoring for Hibs, as we already mentioned. Him, Nisbet and Boyle have scored between them as many goals as we've managed all season in the league.
Yeah, I think I saw someone post saying that they'd gone 46 maybe in all competitions anyway. That's things we could only dream of. I always remember Mark McGee used to always say in the papers, or whoever, well, I remember he did anyway back then in the papers, he was like, our striker's going to get us 50 goals this season. And if those three are only not even getting, I don't know how he hoped for that, but we're not going to get anywhere near that with this current batch of players, are we?
No, we're not. And, Deutsch took his goal well. Like you said, it's a striker who's in form, who's got confidence to take shots on from the edge of the box, but we'll come to the goal itself in a minute. We've identified striker as an area of concern, and I think Stephen Glass will be looking to sign up a striker sooner rather than later. And I suppose getting some of the transfer dealings done early will be a good thing. I think you said to me through the week, it was kind of what McInnes did in his early seasons, get players in so that they've got the full pre-season to gel and get used to the ways of the manager working, and hopefully that benefits us going into next season. One area of concern, though, that was highlighted last night, and I'm concerned what's going to be like at the weekend, was right back. Obviously, Ross McCrory, who's been filling in at right back, injured. Calvin Ramsey, you touched on maybe he's being protected a little bit given his age. I don't know if maybe he's still struggling with a bit of a niggle, because we saw him go down with cramp quite a lot in his early fixtures. But Connor McLennan filling in at right back, unfortunately against a bit classier opposition than Livingston. No offence if any Livingston fans are watching. Horribly exposed there last night. And if it wasn't for Jackson Irvin's poor finishing, the scoreline could have been a bit worse for us.
Jackson Irvin should have done a lot better that one, but first of all, we'll say that with the one who hit the bar. Conor McLennan, it's almost as if he isn't a right back, but I mean, even then, his form this season hasn't. Hit my mic, sorry. His form this season hasn't been great. I'm just letting all my frustrations out. Let alone when he's playing in a position that he isn't natural at. It's pretty concerning. I can't imagine Calum Ramsey's going to come in for the game at Ibrox, because that would be a torrid time for a 17-year-old. Baptism of fire. I suppose you could look at it, he's got nothing to lose, even if it is a bad performance, 17 experience, but it would be quite harsh. But even then, if he's not playing, then it's a 21-year-old Conor McLennan who's not even a right back. It's not much better, is it? Almost as if we shouldn't have loaned out Shea Logan, maybe. But
I don't understand, what's the deal with Shea Logan? Because I know he went on loan to Hearts, but when did his deal expire with Hearts?
I think from when he got registered, he's then registered with them until the end of the season. But I could have sworn McInnes or someone said, no, not McInnes, it would have been Glass, someone said anyway, I've got no idea who, said that he'll be back before the end of the season, but yeah, so I've got no idea. I don't even know if they've got a clue what's going on.
No, because obviously it was an agreement with Paul Sheeran that they fancied giving Calvin Ramsey some game time.
It might have been Paul Sheeran that said it.
But at the end of the day, when you look at last night, it just doesn't make sense that we've gone and sent out our experienced right back. Okay, he hasn't featured much this season, but you know what you're getting with Shea Logan, a man that's committed to the shirt and puts in a decent level of performance, and probably wouldn't look as out of his depth as Conor McLennan did last night. I'm not saying it would have made a huge difference, but it does make that decision a bit questionable when you see us getting torn to shreds down that side. Even in the cup game, against Dumbarton, we looked weak down the right side. Dundee United, when Ross McCrory was there, exploited that side. It's an obvious weakness. Again, look at the goal we conceded against Celtic in the last minute, came from the right back side, nobody closing down the cross. Just, it's an obvious area that it's alarming that hasn't been addressed. And I suppose, as Fraser Walsh said last night, I think, and we discussed in the watch along, the standard of that game last night is quite indicative of the rest of the league. How poor they've been, that we are so comfortable in third and fourth respectively. And I'm sure Michael, if he's listening into this episode, will totally agree that it's probably a state of affairs at Hibs that they haven't pulled away from us, again, given how poor we've been and how, especially in front of goals.
Yeah, if I was a Hibs fan, I know we're in no position to speak about who's concerned, because first of all, yes, we are very concerned, but I would also be concerned for them if I was them, given the fact going into the second last game of the season, it was still even a question that we could finish third, given how woeful we've been. And
had we not conceded that last minute goal to Celtic, we would have maybe still been in our own hands.
I mean, the problem though with Hibs just kept us at arm's length yesterday, really, didn't they?
Yeah.
It was I said earlier, toothless. Someone said in the stream last night, lackluster, those sort of words. Not going to pin this on Mr. Stephen Glass. It's not his squad. Save that judgment for. Put it this way, if we're in this position next season, we're still playing a title football, then I'll be judging him. But in this right now, no.
Okay, good point you made there, because that links in nicely to the next segment. Twitter had a bit of a meltdown at the performance, let's say, last night. A lot of people blaming Stephen Glass. You've just touched on there, it's hard to blame him. Can we put much blame on him? Because at the end of the day, this is a squad that he inherited from McInnes. He came after the January transfer window, so it's not like he could sign any players to influence the game. The change that he's made to the team, I suppose, is keeping Gary Woods in goal, but that's a forced change. Dylan McGee's played over Dean Campbell, but again, the centre mids were changed constantly under McInnes's reign this season. So, he came out and said we probably deserved a point last night. I don't know if I agree with that.
I think first half performance, if we kept that up and still didn't get anything, then we could have said yes. But given the second half performance, I'd say no. We've all seen how terrible we've been this whole season. So obviously, sometimes when managers come in, there's a new manager bounce. But given how much all these current group of players apparently loved McInnes, going by the social media posts when he left, and they weren't even playing for him, and it wasn't just a few months, the whole season. And style football has been terrible in past couple of seasons. It's no shock, and I think that they've not picked up the form. And a big clear out, a lot of new recruitment going towards the next season is needed for me. And the players that have signed so far, decent start, but I think we need a bit more players that are going to get us a bit more excited, enjoy it, a little bit more entertained. Because I've not been entertained a lot this season. And that's what football's about, isn't it?
It is, and I think, it's maybe been the way the season's gone with not being able to go to games. It's detracted from the enjoyment, entertainment purposes, because you might not think about the game as much if you've had a good day out with your mates. The fact that you're sitting at home most of the time on your own, watching that, and it's almost like a form of torture. But you said there about the rebuild job. I was listening to another Aberdeen podcast, and they kind of mentioned the comments that Stephen Glass said after the Dundee United Cup game about how he was brought in for a rebuild job, and that rebuild job he's aiming towards next season. And obviously, they didn't really appreciate those comments coming after a cup defeat, because we're in that cup competition to win it. But do you kind of see the games that he's now played? Did you feel this was always geared up to next season, or should he have kind of geared up to try and challenge for third? Because he came out and said, I think it was a 10-point gap when he came in. It's a tough job, given the run of fixtures we were going to have, Celtic at home, travelling to Rangers on the last day of the season. It was always going to be a tough ask, even if we'd won last night.
I would say it has been gearing up towards next season. I mean, you could ask a lot of managers to come in, given the 3 strikers we've ended up with, how poor they've been. Ryan Hedges, who's been the main man, along with that serpent that's gone down to Ibrox, they were our main attacking threats going forward, and Ryan Hedges out injured. At the back, sort of been a calamity quite a few times, and not an informed Joe Lewis. He goes and gets injured as well. I think it is a big ask, a very, very big ask for him to get third. It was sort of a pipe dream, I would say. I think if he's used these games that he's been in charge more to see what needs done and who needs to go and where we need to improve, I think that's what he should be using these games for, essentially. There was a tiny hope, albeit that we would get third. It was a stretch, and I just hope that all of these games, all of these problems are now highlighted, and we know exactly what the plan is going into next season. Well, not we, they do. In all honesty, we've got no idea what's going on going into next season.
I genuinely had to think who you meant when you called somebody a serpent. That's how much I've already forgotten about him.
Well, there you go. I mean, given how Michael was speaking about Flo Camberry, it could have been we were speaking about that.
But if we look at the kind of optimism, the style of play that we had against, let's be honest, a Celtic team that chucked it by that point, given then what we saw last night and the kind of outpouring of frustration, it just shows the wonderful world of football fans as how much can change from one week to the next. It's an unforgiving world, probably, football management. We're always wanting the best for our team, and when we don't see it, we're going to get frustrated. And that's kind of where we are just now. And I do agree that I think Stephen Glass will be given till about, from the fans, depending on who we sign and, how much, as you said, excites those fans, if we're allowed back in. I think there could be some pressure, in inverted commas, on him if things don't improve come around Christmas time, I would say.
I'd say so, but also given how much Mr. Cormack has talked the talk, I would think Stephen Glass will be getting back to the hilt, and I don't know if there'll be much that Cormack will stop at to make sure that it is a success, but especially since it's his first appointment as Aberdeen chairman. Yeah,
but equally, on the other hand, I was thinking about this today, given how poor we've been this season, and we've still, let's be honest, comfortably finished 4th in the league, can it really get much worse next season? Or am I just going to, should I not say that?
Yeah, maybe we should say that. I don't know. I don't know if it I feel like it can't have got much worse than this season. It's been terrible. We've been bad. We've been bad. But the reason it's not got much worse, and we're still 4th, is given how the gap in quality between the rest of the teams. Also, speaking about not achieving 3rd place, I'd just like to mention Glass had very few games. We've comfortably finished 4th. We've not managed to catch 3rd. But given, is that our 4th place finish in a row now? Let's not forget that fact either.
He seemed to be very annoyed by Hibs' over-exuberant celebrations in the dressing room at finishing 3rd. So hopefully he uses that as fuel for the fire for next season. Now, another talking point, I suppose, we mentioned it, he's had to kind of enforce change in Gary Woods, featuring for Joe Lewis, who's still nursing his rib injury. We've not kept a clean sheet since he's started a game. As Robbie Hamright pointed out on the watch along last night, he joins an unfortunate list of going 4 starts without a clean sheet. I've watched the goal back and I'm still undecided, but I think it's very harsh to apportion blame on Gary Woods for that goal.
First of all, I'd just like to say he's gone 4 games. It's good. Beesball's making it 5 now. I mean, it's not that. Going to Ibrox. First, when I saw it in real time, I thought, should maybe have done better there. But when you saw the angle from behind the goal, the dip that the shot takes, let's be honest, it's a great strike. He took it very well. The dip it takes maybe does him a little bit.
I think he's a bit deceived by the pace of the shot as well, because
and that affects the dip as well.
Yeah, it's like he gets there, but he's like a split second late. And as I said, I was listening to another Aberdeen podcast this morning, but they were questioning whether he is the right keeper to match the current ambition at this club. And this, as you've said, this season, he's maybe a better keeper with his ball at the feet than Joe Lewis. But as they were saying, ultimately a goalkeeper's job is for shot stopping. Is he a better shot stopper than Joe Lewis? But Joe Lewis has had his moments this season as well.
That's what I was waiting to say. He's that okay. You might argue he maybe should have done better with that goal, but even if that is his fault, it's still not as bad as the 3-4 howlers Joe Lewis maybe had this season. There's no doubt he is better with the ball at his feet. I suppose going into next season, it's good to have the option of you got a guy who's better with the ball at his feet, or Joe Lewis who's a better goalkeeper, but distribution wise, not great. Just so it's good option to have. I think it'll be interesting seeing what Stephen Glass goes with when they are both fit. I suppose Joe Lewis might have the summer to try and improve his distribution if he is fit.
I think as well, when he's playing in front of, behind a makeshift defence, it's quite hard to question, how good a keeper he is, because he's always going to have rain down. But a football quirk that really annoys me is, your keeper's a good shot stopper. That's literally his job. Yeah, is to stop shots.
Speaking of stopping shots, I don't think anyone got close to Doige quick enough either. I think he had a bit too much time and space there.
Yeah, well, I think he was Dylan McGee. He turned and obviously sat up nicely for him to volley home. But no, I just thought it was a bit strange to question Gary Woods, given he's come in, he's not played a lot of football recently, and I suppose we've not really seen the best of him. They're saying, no, he's not had the best shot-stopping record throughout his career. Is he going to be right going forward? Well, ultimately, if Joe Lewis isn't fit enough to throw himself around because of his rib injury, it's possibly why he's there. And that's going to be up to Stephen Glass to determine whether or not Joe Lewis, who is currently club captain, let's remember, that could all change next season as well. Who knows?
Well, to be fair, put it this way, we're not going to put Tom Ritchie in goals, are we, if Joe Lewis isn't on the bench? So don't have much choice. But football is a game about opinions, and Robbie also said on the watch long yesterday that there were some complaints on Twitter as well, which obviously we didn't see at the time. But it's just what football's about.
Absolutely. Opinion. Yes, thank you for clarifying that, because I was going to end on that saying, and that is the best thing about football is we will not always agree despite what people think, and it provides talking points if someone's got a different opinion, because somebody else will hold another opinion, and there will be people listening in or watching this episode that will agree or disagree with what we've just said about Gary Woods and Joe Lewis, and probably even listening to previous episodes will be probably shouting, saying, I don't care if he's good with his feet, Calum, he needs to stop the ball going in the net. So, but again, another game, still no clean sheet under Stephen Glass, and like you said, you might as well make it 5 on Saturday.
Oh yeah, I'm not confident about this going to Ibrox. They've got their unbeaten season to defend. We have nothing to play for, but as you said, Stephen Glass did say they shouldn't be heading into any games with that sort of mentality, which is encouraging to hear. Whether we'll see it, who knows, because we have heard that kind of thing before. I've just got a terrible feeling that Messer's Right's going to fucking score. I mean, even Greg Stewart scored against us in the 5-0 game. I mean,
I've really tried to erase that from my memory, so can we just not, please? Because
I walked out when Stewart scored. I was like, no, bad enough.
But yeah, you're right there. Stephen Glass, when asked by Andrew Shiney last night in his post-match interview, was asked if, we're going to Ibrox now with ultimately nothing to play for, but maybe could we use the motivation of preventing Rangers going unbeaten this season to, energise? And like you said, he responded by saying this team should not be going anywhere with nothing to play for. There should always be something to play for when you're playing for Aberdeen. Now, if that's him just coming out to, avoid the question, or if that's the mentality he's going to be drilling into the players, we will see. Come Saturday what level of performance we get. But it's saying the right things in the media, but we also need to see that translated onto the pitch.
Well, that's sort of what I'm thinking. We've heard that kind of thing before, and I think we have come to the conclusion now, or I have come to the conclusion now, that this group of players probably don't have the mentality of that. They probably don't share that, given how some of the spineless performances we've seen. But happy to be proved wrong. It would be nice to spoil trophy day for them, but I don't have any belief that they will.
To be honest, if we do, it will be an unbearably gloating review.
Oh yeah. I think I'm probably unbearable at the best of times, fully aware of that, by the way, before anyone lets me know in the comments down below. But it would be interesting. It would be interesting. So make sure you subscribe to see it. Feel free to dislike the video if you want as well. That's fine. And
if we get absolutely annihilated, it will be... I don't even know if I'll actually even bother doing one.
It'll be interesting. Either way, it'll be basically it'll be either we're absolutely delighted and unbearable, or we don't even want to do it, but we probably...
Or it'll just be said, well, we knew it was coming. Thanks for coming. See you next season.
You know what we'll have to look forward to then after the last time we played them and lost? All their fans come flooding in to laugh at us. So that's good.
Yeah, true that. And I suppose, like we said, if for those of you that didn't watch the watch along, we are speaking to Liz Bowie from the Community Trust on Monday. So if the game really does go terribly, at least there's something positive to get out next week. I'll be speaking to her all things Community Trust, how they've coped during the pandemic, and what's next for them going forward. So really looking forward to that chat with Liz, and like I said, we'll get that out. It's just good to highlight the work that the Community Trust has done this season. I know a lot of you that have tuned into this episode were enjoying these kind of fundraisers that we were highlighting in relation to the Community Trust. So it's just good to get her on to explain kind of what the fundraisers do, how they use the money, and also how they've helped the community during this pandemic. And Calum, I know you're excited to learn more about the Community Trust by listening in.
Definitely, because I have very, very limited knowledge. I'm happy to admit that. So I think it will be Glen interviewing. Don't expect to see me there, because I will be as useful as a chocolate teapot. I'll just edit it and then I'll learn a lot about it, which will be good. And I'll leave all their information in the description of the video and things too. But no, I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll be able to get some player interviews over the summer as well. Let us know as well in the comments down below, or on Twitter at @RTG_podcast. Any specific players you'd like to see us reach out to and try get. Obviously, there's no promises. It's quite difficult sometimes. Or any other type of content you'd like to see as well.
Yeah, and I suppose, we might be able to get some of the players that are heading out of contract. Good again, nice link for me there. As Stephen Glass saying last night, that'll probably be announced next week. The club have got their ideas on who they want to keep, let go, but also players that are out of contract may have their ideas. They may already have their minds set elsewhere, and their futures are being decided elsewhere, but it won't be announced until next week. I wonder if that will affect what we see in terms of a team lineup on Saturday, because, does it get to the point that maybe players don't want to risk that next move by picking up an injury?
Very, very possible. You mentioned it last night. One player that we think will probably be going, given Ash Taylor, his wife is down the road back in Liverpool. He could be heading back down there to join. That's just one little thing we've put together with our little detective caps on.
2 + 2 making 5.
Exactly. Knowing us, probably it will, and he'll sign like a 4-year deal or something ridiculous. That'd be interesting. Yeah. Also, on contracts, Curtis Main out of contract. He's been released by Shrewsbury already. Bring him home. That's our striker for next season.
Well, we're in need of a goal scorer, and I think he scored a few for Shrewsbury, but will be interesting to see, given, say season ends on Saturday, will players move on? Will we already have deals lined up? Clark Robertson being one. If rumours are to be believed, he's been at Cormac Park this week, looking around the place. Obviously, there's been no word on a deal being signed, but I know Sunderland and Plymouth are making their case for him. We do need to shore up defensively. For me, it's not an exciting signing, but I really want to see a striker signed early doors to get me excited for next season.
Yeah, Robson would fit the homegrown quota for the Europa Conference League that I'm not as excited about as I once was, given we found out the type of teams that are going to be in there. Robson, interesting. Looking at how many games he's played as well recently, he's played something like 60 games or something in the past few years for Rotherham, and he played like double that for Blackpool, albeit a league or two below. Not seen a lot since he left. Obviously, I hope he's bulked up and improved, and maybe got rid of the injury issues. He's left-sided. That's at least something. That would be good. Maybe better with the ball at his feet. Who knows?
Is Declan Gallagher not left-footed as well?
Well, I always thought that, but then I don't think he played left-sided for Scotland, so I don't know.
But I know someone that always likes to bring up about playing two left-footed defenders. But yeah, he's played. I'm just looking at his stats now. 16 league appearances this season for Rotherham.
So he's either not been good enough. Sorry, so he's either been not been good enough to play in a relegated Rotherham side, or he's been injured a lot.
Yeah, and he's chipped in with 5 goals in his time at Rotherham. But for those of you that have listened to the Jack Grimmer interview, if you haven't, why not? Go back and listen to it or watch it on the YouTube channel. He's a player that Jack spoke about, probably a player that's grown it and developed and improved with his time down in England. Made 121 appearances at Blackpool before signing for Rotherham. So he certainly gained experience. He's not going to be the type of player that was a youngster, let's say, and maybe out of his depth.
I think very raw, from what I remember.
in a let's be honest, a not so great Craig Brown team during his time at Aberdeen. So let's see. If he does sign, we'll obviously give him the benefit of the doubt, like we do every other signing that we were never sure about.
There's been a few.
But yeah. So we'll see what is to come. I don't really think there's anything else to speak about ahead of Saturday's game, Calum, because I don't think many folk are that bothered.
If anyone's made it this far, in all honesty, I'll be shocked. No, nothing else to cover. You mentioned I'd like to see a striker. A few of them signed up as soon as possible. Other than that, no, I don't think we've got much else left to cover. So I think if you're tuning in, watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you're not to miss out in future. As Glen mentioned, we've got an interview with Liz Bowie from the Aberdeen something Community Trust. That's the one.
Oh my God, man.
Coming up. Knowledge. We've got that coming up. Definitely a good thing that I'm not going to be there for it. So make sure to follow us wherever you're tuning in, if you're listening, and on Twitter at @RTG_podcast. We never plug this either. If you're watching on YouTube, our Twitters are above our heads as well, so be sure to follow us there. And thank you very, very much.
Ridiculous nonsense.
Yeah, a lot of Murray Cup.
Especially from Calum.
Yeah, Rowies as well. Let me know in the comments down below how you would like a Rowie. Thanks very much for tuning in, everybody.